since health officials have encouraged frequent hand washing for families using more water.
My mother was asking me, like, when are we taking the trash out? We have 4 bags of trash and we have to drive into the city to do that. Doing laundry, I'm scared to go do laundry right now. We have a small laundromat here in the community, kind of risky for us right now.
In 2009, American Indians and Alaska Natives died from H1N1 at 4 times the rates of all other racial and ethnic groups combined. That's according to a study by the National Institutes of Health. For NPR News, I'm Laura Morales in Flagstaff.
Members of Congress say more help is on the way. Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she expects the chamber to pass a $2 trillion coronavirus rescue package tomorrow. NPR's Windsor Johnson reports a bipartisan bill, which would be the largest fiscal relief measure ever passed by Congress, was approved overwhelmingly by the U.S. Senate yesterday.
Once the House passes it, the legislation will rush direct payments to eligible Americans within 3 weeks. Speaker Pelosi says there's no question that more money will be needed to fight the pandemic.
The bill will be a large infusion of funds for hospitals, health systems, and state and local governments. We want more, and this was a big, strong step, but we need more.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy says it's too early to determine whether more legislation is needed.
You have more than $2 trillion going into the economy, to the areas that we know are needed, and you're sitting here talking about needing another bill?
President Trump says he'll sign the measure as soon as it reaches his desk. Windsor Johnston, NPR News, Washington.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 982 points, or 4.6% at 22,164. This is NPR News. The Department of Justice is now unveiling charges against Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, accusing him of drug trafficking and terrorism. The Trump administration has been pushing for his ouster for over a year now. NPR's Michelle Kellerman has more.
The Justice Department has indicted Maduro and 14 current and former top officials on charges of narco-terrorism, corruption, and drug trafficking. Here's Attorney General William Barr.
As alleged, the Maduro regime is awash in corruption and criminality. Maduro and his other defendants have betrayed the Venezuelan people.
The State Department is offering up to $55 million in reward money for tips that lead to the arrest of Maduro and his associates. Maduro is denouncing the move and accusing the U.S. of trying to, quote, fill Venezuela with violence. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, Washington.
The Attorney General also had remarks about the Bureau of Prisons during the coronavirus pandemic. He says the Bureau will increase the use of home confinement, especially for older inmates, to allow medically vulnerable inmates to serve the rest of their sentences at home. He says the Bureau has also initiated several measures in prisons where concerns have arisen about the coronavirus spreading more easily among inmates who are unable to practice social distancing. The measures include mandatory 2-week quarantines for all new inmates, as well as isolation for infected inmates. The Dow up 967 points, or 4.6% at last glance, at 22,179. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Ooma, a cloud-based phone service for
Join us for All Things Considered weekdays between 5 and 7 and every day of the week beginning at 5 o'clock. Sunny for Wichita and Hutchinson. Elsewhere, we'll have cloudy skies. Radar indicates a band of clouds moving into the north. We'll have a slight chance for light rain for Salina and Great Bend. Readings today between 65 and 70. Overnight, cloudy skies and a slight chance for scattered showers and thunderstorms, mainly for Wichita, Hutchinson, and Manhattan. Look for readings tonight, a warm 50 to 55 degrees. Highs for tomorrow between 70 and 75 degrees, except for in Hayes, a bit cooler there, but still quite pleasant. Readings between 60 and 65. There is a slight chance for scattered showers throughout our listening area for tomorrow, and we can expect cloudy skies throughout the day. There is a chance for showers and thunderstorms tomorrow night. We'll have cloudy skies throughout our listening area. Look for southerly breezes between 15 and 25 miles per hour, with readings tomorrow night between 50 and 55 degrees. And Saturday, Sunday, sunny with readings between 55 and 60. There is a chance for rain in some portions of our listening area. Wichita at 63, Hutchinson 58 degrees, Salina 51, Manhattan and Great Bend at 54 degrees. Our next news on Radio Kansas will be at 4 o'clock with All Things Considered. The time now is 2:08. And thank you for joining me this afternoon for Classical Music. I'm Michael Abels, and I'm here with you right up until 5 o'clock, the start of All Things Considered. We'll start here with the only work Tchaikovsky wrote for piano, violin, and cello, the piano trio in A minor. I don't think the composer really liked this particular concerto. He seemed to have to listen to it a couple of times, as well as have a few revisions made to it for him to be really pleased with it. We'll hear the Rembrandt Trio with the piano trio in A minor from Opus 50 by Tchaikovsky. Well, that was interesting. Something. All right. Playlist.
Hello there.
Hello.
I just wanted to say a quick howdy. Thanks for being with us. Accumulating a few people online. We are already shorter staffed than we were just 1 week ago when we planned this broadcast. So Michael will be in and out of the room, kind of wearing all the hats he normally wears. And we apologize for that, but it will give you a real indication of just how busy folks like Michael are here behind the scenes. But I wanted to say a quick howdy. And again, thanks for being with us. But this virus and other things have left us a little short.
Standing a little too close to you.
Yeah, that's right. That's not the 6 feet. Not the 6 feet. But at any rate, Michael will be telling you a little bit about the control room here and his unique activities. Michael, as you know, is not just a classical host, but he's also the producer of Night Crossings. Michael came to us actually hosting our classical on weekend afternoons. But then he quickly transitioned into Night Crossings. And he developed so much expertise with our playlists while the times he was a Night Crossings producer that we recognized that we just could not lose that when he stepped away from the show weeknights. So we're able to use his excellence in announcing and technique on the air on weekday afternoons. And yet he will, in a while here, turn around to a computer that you can't quite see off here to my right, that has our Night Crossings playlists on it. The Night Crossings playlists are in fact developed in advance. For music rights reasons, we cannot share with you those playlists in advance. I'll take that on pretty quickly. We usually have questions about it, but basically, if you want to know anything about music rights, the issue is that if we make it too easy for you to record something at home, the notion is that you will not, in fact, go out and purchase it for your own home use, and therefore the musicians will not be rewarded. And of course, their ability to make a living will break down. And so we're not able to, not allowed to anymore, used to, but as of 1998, We cannot present playlists in advance because there's the risk that you would record things off the air instead of purchase those. So that's how that works. Starting to accumulate, folks. Looks like a good afternoon, Michael, for folks to tune in here. So
Okay.
This is Michael, by the way. I'm
Right here.
I'm not.
Yep. He's just holding the chair.
And so the Night Crossings is considered original music by classically trained musicians. So it is directly connected to our weekday classical music. Some of those classically trained musicians are better composers than others. And so Night Crossings has those folks that love it and those folks who love parts of it, but not all of it. The great thing about our classical music is, as you can tell, it's hosted live as much as we can possibly manage, and it's curated live as well. And so you'll hear, for example, on Michael's weekly request program, you will hear him identify works that are being heard as performed locally. That's one of his big thrusts there. And so anyway, so as you have questions, ask them by text. I explained to Michael, the camera position here is such that he's not really able to type back to you, so I'll be handling those questions. But as he sees those questions come by, and as his glasses allow, he's certainly free to answer your questions on video too. So with that, I'll head on down the hallway. Thanks for joining us again. I'll leave you in Michael's capable hands, and again, allow him to step away as he needs to fill in for, well, I won't list the names of all the people who don't find themselves here this afternoon, because we understand they have family issues that might keep them away. But we are working really hard. We apologize that we're maybe not at our very, very best, but we'll give you the best we have, and that's Michael Abels. There you go.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon, rather. Gosh, something new for me. I'm used to hiding in this room, a soundproof booth with no one around, but hey, something new every day. Right now, I'm going to check the readings for our transmitters. One of the first things I do when I start here on my shift is to make sure that all is set the way I want it to be set, and I'm familiar with the problems with the transmitters. And over here to the, I guess, my left here, the screen here opens up when I click on the correct icon to KHCC. And we use an IP communication system as well as modem as a backup. And it takes a few minutes for the signal to reach the transmitter, a few seconds rather, because right now it's already opened up. It looks like our antenna power is at 100% at KHCC. And that matches what it was here about 6 hours ago, actually about an hour ago, and then 6 hours prior to that. We take our readings at our transmitter automatically, I guess you could say, by schedule at 6 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. The midnight reading is checked by our station engineer from home. And of course, we have logs that are maintained live by the transmitters themselves. Looks like everything is okay at KHCC, checking at CD, covering Salina and Manhattan. And it's going to take about another few seconds. Call is in progress. It looks like we have a dehydrator off and on, and we just switched back to stereo from mono. We like to broadcast in mono when we have the news programs. You really don't need much stereo for a single voice. And now we're in at KHCD. In a moment, looks like we're at 99.2 at this second, which has changed to 98.7% antenna power. We now have at 97.8 HPX power and our Z power. These are two alternative transmitters that sort of share the load. They're at 99%. Everything's green on the board at CD, and now we're checking into CT. Call site, IP direction, and it takes a few seconds as mentioned before. Now we're inside. It looks like the critical systems I'm checking are just the transmitter power ranges. If there are any indicators which manifest as idiot red, yellow, or green, then it will let me know. And if I see that, I'll check deeper. But right now, it looks like HPX and Z power are at what they should be. Let's double check. Yep, Looks just great. Terminate, return, and now I know my transmitter sites are up and running. Everything's green on the board. And let's load up a CD player here for our next round of music. Looks like we'll be going to music by Claude Debussy next. All right, check the weather forecast, or actually check our readings. It looks like we've got some stuff on radar up here, and everything seems to be just current and is tracking just fine. All right. Looks like we have some copy for social distancing here that is going to air through April 21st. The flashing green lights over the shoulder are indicators in our connection to NPR. Yeah, indeed, that's our streaming channels there. It just lets us know that the programs are, or the connection is open with National Public Radio. All righty. Do a quick rehearsal here with many Kansas, including Radio Kansas staff working from home. We're asking business to keep our staff out of harm's way. All righty. Let me go down to my desk down the hall and check on some matters to make sure everything is okay down there. Then I'll be back here working on night crossings. All right, I'm checking off some underwriters here that we played during our news break, and we're looking forward to hearing a few more underwriters here before the afternoon, but not that many here for today. So looking ahead on the log is part of what you do. You want to make sure you know what's coming up, and it also helps align you with the instructions that are given from our manager here, Ken Baker. Looks like we got a letter here from Trevor Stewart, one of our local artists for Night Crossings, and he seems to have sent us a brand new CD. Good idea of how that CD looks. It's just handwritten on the cover. He has not yet produced this yet, but we get it before he is even going to have them available for you. So I'll give this a listen here in just a bit. Trevor Stewart is one of our Night Crossings artists. He works with the Chapman stick. And he has a brand new album out called Love and Surrender. And we'll check this out here in just a few minutes. Also received a couple of works here. One from Nicholas Gunn, another Night Crossings artist that we'll be vetting here. Brand new album, very simple. It used to come. They used to be more complex. You used to have a CD case, but now the artists are just saving as much money as possible, which is fine. Most of our Night Crossings library is digital, so we don't need CD cases anymore, except that we'd like to keep a hard copy in our possession. And then we have another one here from Pam Ashbury, one I have not seen before. Pam is not in our Night Crossings library, so that'll be interesting to kind of review this music as well. Astronomical Clock. The name of the piece is Moods, Impressions, and Souvenirs for solo piano. And then Paul Spear, another artist that is frequently on Night Crossings. He sent us something here. I haven't heard from Paul in about a decade, so I'm glad he's still in the business. Does very well. He's a decent guitarist, if not a superior guitarist, certainly superior compared to anything that I can play. So I'm looking forward to listening to him as well. You won't be able to hear him, unfortunately, because, well, I don't know. I guess you can. Could run it through the board. But we'll see here in just a minute how that works out. I don't like to run audio through the board while I've got music playing over the air. There's a chance for error that you'll get some cross music over the air. So I tend to review the music down the hall before I can bring it down here to put it into our Night Crossings database. All righty, so we've got another 34 minutes for this piece, and I have some things to do down the hall. If you have any questions, let me know, and Ken will answer them, and I'll do my best to answer them if you have any questions directed towards me. Looks like we're a little hot on our trio here. And we're loaded for the next piece. Everything looks good. All right, cool. All right. Keep an eye on it. Down. Yeah. So we have some social distancing copy I need to brush up on. With many Kansans, including Radio Kansas staff working from home, we're asking businesses to keep our staff out of harm's way by supporting Radio Kansas from a distance. When you sign a new renewed underwriting contract remotely, we'll provide an extra discount as a thank you for keeping our staff safe. Mail Misty at radiokansas.com or leave a message at 855-RADIO-KS, and we'll reach back with our best offer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's going to be cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michael's learning about this as you are.
Yeah, basically, the first time I've seen it.
It's just like it sounds. We're hoping to have more folks do their underwriting with us by email and such. So, because we know that they probably don't want to meet one of us,
mm-hmm.
and we figure, hey, let's help them help them get some savings out of it too.
Yeah, connect.
So this is tough. If you're someone who's involved with a favorite nonprofit, these are tough times. It's tough for everybody, but for nonprofits especially, because some of your involvement, some business involvement, it feels optional. It feels like something that probably might be best left out of your budget this month. And of course, Radio Kansas lives and dies based upon the generosity of people who very well could say they would just as soon not work with us any given month. So that's a great example of an initiative that we have there to try to deal with present circumstances. How are you holding up?
Yeah.
How in the world are you holding up with this COVID business? Michael and I were joking about social distance a couple of minutes ago, but honest to goodness, I just got an email, Michael, from the manager of another station here in Kansas that does less classical than us, but they do some classical. And he was asking what sorts of things we're doing. And I was able to identify our YouTube presence here as something we've invited young people to join us for. And we'll try to make these things as educational as possible. But we'll also try to do our best to promote what we call our Classical Connections series. In fact, we might bring more of them around in tighter succession, just so that we can serve more people with that engaging music that has a connection to pop culture. And that's how we kind of organize things. So you'll hear over the course of a year, Classical Connection series like Cartoon Classics, which is kind of self-explanatory. Classics you probably first saw with a Warner Brothers cartoon. We have Creepy Classics on that we may or may not bring around before Halloween. We have Celtic Classics. We have, you can tell we go with the alliteration around here. It makes things sound memorable anyway. But anyway, just kind of wanted to touch base and ask you how you're doing. Let us know in the comments. We will try to stay in touch with you live here. And I just want to say that again, Michael, I'm just having a blast hearing about how your day goes and how the fact that you've got Night Crossings responsibilities and other people you serve, and yet classical music, just like so many other people, is in the background of your life.
Okay, so I'm going to check the EAS logs. We have an emergency alert system that we need to check as part of our routine. Every operator that comes on board needs to check just about every system that we have available. So they're familiar with what their shift looks like. We know the person prior to me on board, they left before I arrived, and part of the social distancing is that's really the first time I've seen much of Ken all week. We're in touch via email, but we are on shorter shifts here at the station simply because we're maintaining as much social distancing as possible. But this is the most I've seen of Ken here for the last couple of days. I'll see him tomorrow because I'll be here for the Friday morning request show, and that brings me in a little bit earlier than usual. But we're working from home as much as we can. But those of us who are on air obviously have to be here at the station in order to broadcast. So that's where we are there. So yes, let us know how you are doing, how you are managing. If you're indeed going to work, let us know a little bit about the precautions that you're taking, if indeed you are taking. And if you're not, we advise you to do so because it's for my best interest as well as your own if you're making sure that this virus is held in check. So let's take a look here at what we've got over on this side of the board. And I don't know if you can see this. I guess you can't. But on this is our EAS box, our emergency alert system. Essentially, we can check the logs to see whether or not the ESAS system engineers and managers are able to reach us, and they periodically send us information to let us know that their channels are open. For example, we just received something at 10:08 yesterday, and it simply was a test that a weekly test for Butler, Kansas, and Sedgwick County, and just letting us know that we are in touch with them. Now, about every month, they send us a major alert in which we broadcast here automatically, but often we'll break in manually during our newscast so that it doesn't overwrite the music or overplay the music. But if we do it manually, we can catch it at the newscast. But that's what all stations have to do around the country to make sure that they're in touch in case there is an emergency, a nationwide emergency, and we make sure that that is up to date. We can usually see it on an idiot light off to the right of me. I call it an idiot light simply because it's just a light that gives you a color. And we'll get a green flash that this alert has been sent down, and we have to respond within a certain amount of time for the test to be considered valid. And if we don't, well, then we'll have some questions to answer. It's going to be a great day. I hope you're enjoying the program so far. This is one of Tchaikovsky. Indeed, this is the only piano trio written by Tchaikovsky. As I mentioned earlier, he wasn't very happy with this particular piano trio in the beginning. He didn't like the combination of instruments really at all, and he had to be persuaded by his patron in order to compose it. But in the end, I think he ended up liking it enough to have it played at a reception given for him in 1891 at the Russian Embassy in Washington, D.C. So it's a beautiful concerto. I don't see the problem at all, or don't hear the problem that he had with it. But of course, a composer would hear something different than I would. So it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it doesn't even sound much like Tchaikovsky. So I'm glad to hear it. This is my first, no, actually, this is not like my 50th time hearing it. But, you know, there's so many other pieces that are being played here on Radio Kansas. You just lose track of how many times you've heard them here. For example, the Toccata and Fugue that we have coming up by Bach is quite commonly played here on Radio Kansas. I guess it's one of the popular pieces, the most popular piece by Johann Sebastian Bach. But our arrangement coming up here is by Leopold Stokowski. Now, if you happen to have seen Fantasia, the Disney film, then you'll know that Leopold Stokowski was the iconic conductor of that movie, of all the works in that movie. And his arrangement is the first arrangement of the fugue that you probably heard as a kid, because it wasn't that popular before Leopold Stokowski got a hold of it and made it available to a wide audience here in the United States. Later on, we'll also hear a little bit of music by Camille Saint-Saëns and Rossini. It's a great day for music, and thank you for tuning in for our music this afternoon. It's going to be a really good day, and if you stay with us and don't spend too much time gawking at me, I think you'll have a great time. So now I'm going to slip out again, and I'll be back in just a few moments. We have about 23 minutes remaining on this piece. Okay, so I'm just looking at the playlist to see what we have here, matching it up to make sure everything is set up right. Sometimes that doesn't happen the way I want it to happen, but it looks like it's set the way it is. Okay. Now, right now, I'm going to write a promo, and this is a promo that's going to be based on a program that we have airing later on today. Now, it comes down as an actual file that we can play during news hours, and then it's just tagged. During classical music, the music bed that's often associated with the promos of our shows it's not often the best. It's designed to catch your ear, but we want the message to get out when the show airs and what the content is. So I essentially bring this particular show up, and they have a promo that is tagged along with it. Tonight it's the Deutsche Welle Festival, and I need to make sure the date is correct. It came down 2 days ago, which would mean that it is current. And let's see what we have. I'm placing the pot in queue so that we can hear it in studio. The pots are down here so it doesn't broadcast over the air. And then we just fire it off. And there's a good example of why the bed is not used during classical music. We want it to be ear-catching, but we don't want it to be disrupting. So what I'm going to do is essentially take what Rick Folker is saying and write it down. So it's going to take a few listenings for me to catch it. And fortunately, we have a pause feature on this particular file. It's not always the case, but this one has a pause feature, so I can just play a sentence at a time and type it up.
The Sound of a Jealous Woman by...
And I take it short. Alrighty.
Beethoven.
No, that was easy. I should have left it go. Play that out. Alrighty.
And Pure Bliss by Mozart.
And Pure Bliss by Mozart. Okay.
With the superb young Russian soprano Yulia Lezhneva.
Yulia Lezhneva. I spell young with a J, really.
I'm Rick Folker, and in the next Deutsche Welle Festival concert, we also have Mozart's C minor Mass.
Alrighty.
With the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen and Maestro Pop.
And who?
Here.
We're going to have to listen to that again. Alrighty, let's try it one more time.
The Sound of a Jealous Woman by Beethoven. And Pure Bliss by Mozart. With the superb young Russian soprano Yulia Lezhneva. I'm Rick Folker, and in the next Deutsche Welle Festival concert, we also have Mozart's C minor Mass with the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen and Maestro Pavel Gerling.
Okay, probably have to listen to that one more time, but I think we've got just what we need. It's not going to be used this next break anyway, but I wanted to get a little bit ahead of it. All right, and our next underwriter needs to be brought up. Close. I'm popping up through screens here on this. There's a large screen here off to my right. And on this screen, I can drag various files and drop them right there onto buttons. And these are simulated or virtual buttons. And when I press them, the file will play. For example, we have a file for member card here, which is designed actually to randomize among the number of files, talking about different supporters of the member card. And this next one is by Botanica. So we'll run this just by mouse to let you know how that is set up for our breaks.
The Radio Kansas member card is honored by Ashley Furniture in Manhattan, offering cardholders 15% off, excluding sale items. The card also
now that this is going over the air, we're just playing it in
other
queue.
regional businesses.
And it should change, but it doesn't look like it has. So I'll have to set up the underlying files for that one here later on. We also have an EAS open. These are just standard buttons that are part of my screen, which allow me to do things quicker than having to search the files. They're set up and they're kind of color coded, so you can hear the EAS open.
This is a test of the emergency alert system. This is only a test.
You can also hear the EAS close. This is done in Geraldine's voice, Geraldine Smith.
This concludes a test of the emergency alert system.
We also have a drop your CD and I can't find it for the moment file, and that's called our classical emergency file. It's essentially a bit of classical music, a short piece, 1 minute and 21 seconds long, which allows us just enough time to run down the hall to the classical music library and grab the correct CD. And it's just a classical piece. We play that as a classical emergency because that's what it is. We want to make sure we have something on the air at least while we're frantically searching for a lost CD. We also have the New York Philharmonic radio broadcast that takes place on Sunday evening, and on today, the file comes down. So I'm going to check to see if that is up. Now, JD has been out just a couple of days. He normally processes this file, so it's not brought up to date. We'll see if we can do that here for him. And I'm just clicking into our shows to see if the file is available. Sometimes it's under the New York Philharmonic, and it turns out that is what it is. And it looks like we do have a current file. And I can basically play it directly from that file, but that's not going to do Kyle any good later on today. Kyle is covering for JD during All Things Considered later on today. So we'll process that file for him right now. First, we need to find out what this is all about. Okay. And I'll process that file in one of our control rooms here in just a few moments. Alrighty. And then we have a Here and Now promo, which is not scheduled on the log, so it's not something I will be working with here. And then we have the All Things Considered promo, which was used at the 2 o'clock break and won't be used for the remainder of today. So those are the buttons, if you were listening, that are listed on my screen. And I also have a member card, which gives me about 7 seconds to catch my breath. And if, in fact, you ever hear a member card playing, it's probably because there's something that's caused me to need about 6 or 7 seconds to take care of. And this is the theme song from one of our shows here, this particular segment. And for a moment there, I thought I was playing one of the files from the shows. I think this is for the Deutsche Welle Festival, perhaps. It might be exactly what it's for, which is why it kind of confused me there. All right, so we're all set here. And I've got my promo for a few breaks away. And I'm going to do a little bit of research here online for our next piece by Claude Debussy so that I will have a little bit of content to deliver. I'm using my phone because I really don't need to mess with the computer for something as short of an introduction or a background that I need. I only need a few seconds to talk to you about it. So first, I'm going to make sure. Let's see. If there's something apparent, I can check the files here as well. Adenspoin. Written for Sergei Diaghilev. Ballet Russes. Okay, I think I have a little bit of information. Okay. So just a quick overview. About midway between every piece of music that we play, we start thinking about the next piece and what that break will take, what is involved in bringing, or what we're going to put as far as that break. Now, top of the hour breaks always contain an ID. A full ID is what we call it here, and that is our full little chant that we make at the very top of the hour. The radio, this is the Radio Kansas Network, 90.1 KHCC, 89.5, 90.9, and yada yada. That is our full ID. So that is part of this upcoming break. So what I have as far as elements, I have a back announce, which is basically announcing what we just heard. Back announcing is what we call that. Then I'll immediately, if I have an underwriter, I'll put that up front and center and play that. Then right after the underwriter, I'll play I'll read our full ID. Now, if we have any station business or a push, something that we need, information that we need to give you, often that will be what we call the break content. And that then, if that is available, I'll read that. More than likely, though, if we don't have break content, and this is at the top of the hour, I like to give a quick idea of what's coming up in the hour to keep you engaged. I want you to be able to know that if you step away from the radio, if you come back sometime during this hour, you'll catch one of these pieces probably. And we want to let you know that you can look forward to that piece, one of the pieces being played at least, in the hour to come. So I'll give a forward announcement if I don't have any station business. Once I'm done with the forward announcement, then I do, or when I do the forward promotion, then I'll do the forward announcement for the next piece coming up, and then the music plays. And that pretty much runs the same through every break that we have, with the exception that, with changes basically due to the time of the hour. For example, about 20 minutes or the first break into the hour, we put the weather forecast. So the next break after the full ID will be the weather break ID. And then by then, a piece of music or a couple of pieces of music will play. And then we'll be at the bottom of the hour. Then I'll do a bottom of the hour ID. And then another couple of pieces will play, or one piece will play. And then we'll do some station business, some more promotional material. Whatever we have that is of concern to you, we will get that into the hour. And of course, underwriters being the primary thing that we want to make sure are aired in as many breaks as we have available. And then we move on to the next hour. And it's just like that all the way through the day, where you're constantly kind of planning the next break. And I've already got this next break pretty well planned. I know what I'm going to do. I know the content that I have set for it. And so there's really nothing I have to pay attention here on board, except for really to keep an eye on the levels and just kind of compose myself for my next on-air performance. So levels are very, very important here at Radio Kansas. It is really what all of this equipment is all about, to make sure you get the best sounding air signal we can possibly deliver. And the first line of that delivery is volume. So I've got before me some VU meters which stretch across the board here in front of me. And my eye is always flicking back and forth from here to the clock to the VU meters, particularly if my ears tell me that something is too loud in this room. Now we have a control room monitor here off to my right, as well as a headphone control, but the control room monitor is what we use to check the ambient sound we try to mirror the level that you would play the music if in fact you were really focused on the music. And therefore my volume has to be about that level so that if it gets too low in here, I know it's too low out there for you. And it really is, I can watch the meters all day, but the meters don't tell me enough. My ears have to tell me what's going on. And everyone who works radio here at Radio Kansas is trained from the beginning, given the basics, that volume is the key. We have to make sure the volume is available all the time. So if the music goes really, really low, I have to be on the volume control right here, sliding it up to make sure that you don't have to reach for the volume control at your end. And that's kind of cool. I mean, you can put headphones on, you can play your own music from your device, but there's no one really ensuring that the volume is maintained like it is with a live person on this end. And that's what we concentrate on quite a bit. This is actually kind of jumping all over the place. Your ears are telling you this too, but piano is a particularly nervous instrument, and the needles really, really bounce around. So yeah, it's back and forth here quite a bit. And we've got a cello and we've got a violin and not much more. So there we are. But it's holding up well. It's quite dynamic. Like I say, I really do like this piece of music. This is something different from Tchaikovsky. And the Rembrandt Trio doing a great job. We've got about 3 minutes remaining here, so I'm going to enter my Zen mode. About a minute before we go on air, we try to shoo everyone out of the control room so that we can get that Zen moment of calm that we need to be able to do the break. Because all it takes is a butterfly to make you lose your track, and that's just not going to happen. I mean, that happens all too often if you're not actually actively making sure that the control room is yours for that final minute. And no, I've never dumped over backwards by pushing away from the board like that. Not yet. I will, but not on camera. Mic position is always important, and sometimes we all lose mic position at some point, and that's mainly because we're looking over here or we're looking over there, and the voice changes that way. But we try to get an average range. You want about a hand distance between you and the microphone. And you don't want the microphone directly in front of you. Not only does it make it very hard to see, but it's just this particular microphone functions best when it's just off the corner of your mouth. Now this one seems to be alive because it's trying to run away from me. As you can see, the microphone is alive. Now. Oh, I didn't want to do that. There we go. So just before, it's about a minute away, and I've already cued my mic, which mutes everything in here. So if the phone rings, no phone audio comes through. The ringer is not, you can't hear the ringer. And everything just goes quiet for this last minute. I can hear the music in my headphones just fine. And just before we go to full stereo. the Rembrandt Trio with the Piano Trio in A minor, Opus 50 by Tchaikovsky. This is the Radio Kansas Network, 90.1 KHCC, Hutchinson, Wichita, 89.5 KHCD, Salina, Manhattan, 90.9 KHCT, Great Bend, Hayes, and RadioKansas.net, your connection to the world of classical music. I'm Michael Abels, and thank you for tuning in this afternoon for our Day of Music. Coming up, we'll hear the Hungarian Rhapsody number 13 by Franz Liszt, the overture from Bianca e Faliero by Rossini, and music by Johann Sebastian Bach, one of his most popular works ever, the Toccata and Fugue in D minor. Debussy's Jeux, Games, next, a ballet often called The Danced Poem. It was written for Sergei Diaghilev's his ballet Russa in 1912. Right now, the New York Philharmonic Orchestra with Pierre Boulez directing. Okay. So this starts out a bit quiet. You want to keep your hand on the volume until it establishes itself. And she's starting to get to the point where we can let it go. Okay, full volume. Alrighty. What I've just done is loaded up the next CD player. It's off here off camera. And I wait for the CD player itself to kind of make sure it can catch the thread or groove. And sometimes it doesn't. CDs here have been around for more than 30 years, and they do wear out after 30 years or so of playing continuously. So we're set to select, fire, and load. And we're good to go. So coming up in just a few moments, you have a heads up, Johann Sebastian Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor with an arrangement by Leopold Stokowski on the way. We'll also have the weather for you, which I'm going to give you an update here in just a moment. Okay, first I want to make sure right around 3 o'clock, 3:30, the National Weather Service updates their weather information. It doesn't always come down right on time, and as you can see here, we've got another 30 minutes, I guess. The last update was at 12:25, but the currents are updated. Looks like Hayes is a chilly 49 degrees right now. Hutchinson at 60. Wichita at 67. I think they're the hot spot. Great Bend is now reporting at 53, about a degree down. Salina is at 51. Manhattan is at 55. So right here at the very top of the hour, the currents are very, very current, and they'll still be current in about 13 minutes. So that's what we've got coming our way. Alrighty. Alrighty, here.
We'll go to 3:30.
Just 3:30? Okay, cool. So for those of you just tuning in, I'm Michael Abels, and I'm here in the studio at Radio Kansas. And just coming up on the next break here. Right now what you're hearing is the dance poem by Claude Debussy. Pierre Boulez directing the New Philharmonia Orchestra. In just minutes now, we'll hear Johann Sebastian Bach's most popular work, the Toccata and Fugue in D minor, and this arrangement by Leopold Stokowski. Also here later on today, music by Franz Liszt and Camille Saint-Saëns. It's classical music here for you right up until 5 o'clock. Thank you for joining us for Drive Time. I don't expect you to be driving and watching this, but if you happen to have this on your phone as an app, then you should be in the passenger seat, that's for sure. And that's, I guess, how you can enjoy the Drive Time music that we have for you here this hour, right up until 5 o'clock. So right now, here's the copy for Curtain Call, tomorrow's evening program, hosted by Caitlin Manson-Levy. Madame Butterflies coming up on Curtain Call tomorrow at 7. This is going to feature the great operatic performance of Renata Tebaldi and Carlo Bergonzi. They'll be performing at 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. That's going to be a promo I'll read here later on in the hour. But right now, we have national news, or we actually have local news or weather coming up here in just a few moments, and then a lot more music here between now and that particular announcement. Okay. Interesting thing about the danced poem that we're hearing right now, it's from a play by Sergei Diaghilev. And this particular play originally was about a triad of homosexual men and a plane crash. Now, I thought that was a fascinating feature about this particular poem or this particular piece of music, a plane crash. This was written in 1913, so you can imagine the type of plane that they're using. It's a biplane. That's what the program behind this work was originally based on, this particular triad of encounter of three men. But it later was changed, the final version ending up being about two girls and a man playing tennis. So it's an interesting little story, I think. Probably too involved for me to deliver on air, so I'll leave it out as we go through this next piece of music. Okay, so now we've got an underwriter here. Just looking through our promo book here for future breaks here. Like I said, I'd like to have them planned out in advance, or at least have a go-to list available. And I'd like to mention our weekly variety shows here in just a few minutes. And it looks like we have 1, 2, 3. Looks like we'll get 3 breaks here before the top of the hour. So one of these promos that we have here will work fine for one of the breaks. So I'll leave it in the book, but when it's time to come, it's time to play it, I'll bring it out. About 2 more minutes and we're ready to go. Oh. Okay, let's see what's coming up on All Things Considered. That's another break. We have a rundown of the upcoming program, All Things Considered. I'd like to give you a preview of what's on the show this evening here during Classical. And it looks like they have a couple of stories. One of my filters is I like to find a story that mentions music. We are a music and arts program. And occasionally, All Things Considered does have a story that focuses on music. Right now, it seems to be about 99% coronavirus and about 1% about the Olympics and Syria and a couple of other stories. And there is nothing on music. There's something on learning, so I'll use that story. And these are just short blurbs that are sent out by NPR describing their stories, often poorly written. But they serve well as a forward promotion for the show. Well, here's a nice, interesting story. What do you do if you lose your job? So we'll go with that. All right, it's time to get busy for this break. The New York Philharmonic Orchestra, directed by Pierre Boulez. Dance poem by Claude Debussy. Look for cloudy skies for the overnight hours. There's a slight chance for scattered showers and maybe a thunderstorm or two. Look for lows tonight between 50 and 55 degrees. Cloudy for tomorrow and a slight chance for scattered showers here as well. No thunderstorms, though. Look for highs tomorrow, a bit warmer than today's, between 70 and 75 degrees. Wichita at 67, Hutchinson at 60, Salina 51 degrees, Manhattan 55, Great Bend 53, and Hayes at 49. And thanks for joining us this afternoon for classical music. Music by Rossini on the way, as well as Camille Saint-Saëns here as our afternoon of music continues. Up next is Johann Sebastian Bach's most famous work, the Toccata and Fugue in D minor, and an arrangement by a man that made it that way, the most popular work, Stokowski. His arrangement of the work was included in the 1940 film Fantasia by Disney, which introduced generations to many great classical works. Eka-Pekka Salonen directs the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. Again, the first few seconds of the music establishing, it's very important that you are on the volume. You just really cannot ignore the board. Alrighty. That was not what I wanted. Oh. CD2 instead of CD1. Take a look at this CD. This CD is numbered at 375 in our library. And you would imagine, well, we started collecting classical CDs back in 1981. So we're looking at what, almost 40 years of CDs. This is almost a 40-year-old CD. And you can barely see a scratch on that. And I can say that's just more lucky than anything. It's not me that took care of this CD. Well, I did for the last 20 years, I guess. I and several other hosts. But done remarkably well in keeping our CDs from falling apart. And every now and then we get a donation from a generous listener, a member, that allows us to pull out of circulation those CDs that have become worn and put in replacements from the same era that are not used so frequently. And that refreshes our library. So what are we looking at here? Franz Liszt. And there we are. 10 minutes. Looks like that matches what we have on the playlist. And my playlist is up here, by the way, as well as a few notes that I have on some of the pieces of music. So we're about midway between on this piece here, and this is not what I announced. So we're going to see what's going on. I think I actually played the wrong thing. Wow. Yeah, we did. There's nothing we can do about it right now, so we just have to go from there. I think we had a CD that was missing. Nope, it wasn't a CD that was missing. It was a CD that I ejected by accident. That happens. Even when you're not in the best place at the time for cameras and things. We're listening to an image for orchestra as opposed to the fugue by Johann Sebastian Bach. We're actually hearing the image for number 1 for orchestra by Debussy. Just about done with this. All right, I just cued my mic. I'll pot up just a moment before the music ends. That way you won't hear me pot up. That was Gigue from Images for Orchestra by Claude Debussy. Pierre Boulez directed the New Philharmonia Orchestra. Join us tomorrow evening at 7 for Madama Butterfly on Curtain Call, opera the world over. One of the world's most beloved operas, Puccini's Madama Butterfly is filled with the lush melodies sung by operatic guests Renata Tebaldi and Carlo Bergonzi. Curtain Call is Friday evening at 7 on Radio Kansas. That's right after All Things Considered. This is the Radio Kansas Network, your connection to the world of classical music. I'm Michael Abels, and thank you for tuning in today. And now we'll hear music by Johann Sebastian Bach, the Fugue in D minor, performed by the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra, directed by Esa-Pekka Salonen. This is an arrangement by Leopold Stokowski. All righty. Well, I don't know what happened there just a moment ago. I think it was a situation of I didn't eject the CD. But we are back on track, a little bit off time, which just means I will be dropping the last piece of music here today. Actually, I won't have to do that. I think that just made our playlist balance out. I have a little bit of time at the end to kind of pick a piece myself, and it looks like I have 9 minutes here today. Normally, I only have a couple of minutes to make adjustments. And that gives me a chance that actually fit perfectly for the piece that was not intended to be played here a moment ago. So where are we here? Okay. While the CDs last quite a bit, our cases don't last nearly as long. Every one of our cases, I think, has some kind of damage on it. And that kind of poses a problem because you can't really find cases as easy as you can find CDs. Let's see what you can for. But no complaints. Well, let's go to Night Crossings. Just setting up to program Night Crossings for tonight. And I also will be doing Tranquility Base here today, as well as Friday's Night Crossings. Now, Tranquility Base is voiced by me for Saturday, so I won't be able to do it from the control room, but I do make the playlist from here. And it looks like we just had a set of warnings that came down from one of our repeater stations at Fretcher. at Frederick, which is between here and Russell, about midway. And it looks from our indicators that building lights have come on and gone off. Now, no one has let me know whether or not there is someone out there. So station operating procedure details that I call that repeater station to determine who is there. Since we are social distancing, Rick Young has not yet had a chance to tell me if there's someone out there, so I need to confirm that right now. So I'll give the transmitter a call. Actually, I'll give Rick a call. Hey, Rick, are you out at Frederick? Okay, good. Well, I just saw the lights come on and go off there, so just wanted to make sure you were there. All right, thanks. All right. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so you're heading out to CT next. I'll look for lights there. All right, thanks. And that is as simple as that. Rick Young, our station engineer, director of engineering, is visiting transmitters today, and he just went to a repeater station called Frederick here on the board. And as I mentioned, it's between here and Russell. He's heading out to KHCT, which is closer to Hayes, between Great Bend and Hayes, and he'll be checking things out there. He goes out to the transmitters at least once a week. He also has Doug Kaufman, our assistant engineer, is also out and about checking transmitters. They're doing this continuously, making sure everything's up to snuff. It's quite a complex system that you're listening to. 3 full power transmitters here set up in the central part of the state, broadcasting to half the state of Kansas, with a handful, actually a couple of handfuls of people monitoring and making sure you are getting everything that you have requested here on the station. About a minute to go for this next break. We're at the bottom hour, so I will do a bottom of the hour announcement, actually ID. And I think I'll drop in that promo for our social distancing campaign. And this is the first time I've seen the copy, so I'm going to do a quick pre-read. With many Kansans, including Radio Kansas staff, working from home, we're asking businesses to keep our staff out of harm's way by supporting Radio Kansas from a distance. When you sign a new or renewed underwriting contract remotely, we'll provide an extra discount as a thank you for keeping our staff safe. Email Misty at radiokansas.com or leave a message at 855-RADIO-KS, and we'll reach back with our best offer. Hope you guys take advantage of that. We really want you to. It's a convenience we're happy to give. An arrangement by Leopold Stokowski of the Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Johann Sebastian Bach. Esa-Pekka Salonen directed the Los Angeles Philharmonic. This is the Radio Kansas Network, your connection to the world of classical music. I'm Michael Abels, and thank you for joining me today. The time now is 1:33. Here's music by Franz Liszt, the Hungarian Rhapsody number 13 in A minor, Gabor Gabash at the keyboard. All righty. Thank you. Just watching, listening, you have to be engaged. All right, I think I've got it. I think it's just about thought to be with this one for just a little bit longer than usual, simply because of the speed. It's a little slow. I think I just about have it.
Okay. And thanks for being with us. We're going to take care of our other things today and be listening on air. Michael's with you until 5 o'clock on air, and we'll try to do this again sometime. So again, if you have questions, just reach out. I'm just working on converting classics from PCC to online classes. So I'm checking in. Absolutely, Rhonda. Thank you so very, very much. We'll be in touch with you. I think you know the email addresses, and we'll be in touch. So again, thanks for joining us, everyone.